is Stanton Stevens, and I believe what we're doing is talking about something that we've learned. Is that right? Okay. Well, I'm going to start that by giving some background of myself. My grandfather was in World War II, and he used the GI Bill to learn photography. He started a photography studio in 1947 in a small town in Missouri. My father took that over in 1982, and he actually runs the same studio, the same small portrait studio that my grandfather had ran his whole life. And my dad actually was born in that building and grew up in that building, and now just recently moved out of the building for the first time a few years ago. Always lived and worked in the same house. He went to college, flunked out, came back. It's all good. When I grew up, also in the same house, in that building, running around the photography studio in my diapers, tugging at my dad's shirt while he was in the dark room, doing all that. You know, I guess I didn't understand that this was any different than anything else that anybody else was growing up with, you know. So when I graduated high school, I decided to just go off. I had some money saved up that was nothing really, and I ended up in Dallas, and I wanted to be a musician. So I went to an audio engineering school, and I started. I realized very quickly that I needed something more than just like this sort of like a workman's mentality of like just like the engineering aspect of it. I wanted to actually make art with people. So I found University of North Texas. I went up to UNT and enrolled in the music program there. My first oral skills class, you actually had to do your tests in front of like a panel of the higher ups, I guess, so they could see who was a joke and who wasn't. And I actually had the dean of the department ask me what I was doing at the department, and so that wrapped that up. And I shifted from that to go into the painting program because they sounded like they'd accept anybody. So I did, and they did, and so I did that for the next 5 years. I mean, whatever. The whole time I was always in a band. I wasn't a musician. I ended up graduating with a literature minor and a BFA in painting. For the 3 years directly after college, I was desperately trying to make the band work. I was sacrificing relationships and hermiting myself into my bedroom with my recording equipment, and I was painting these big murals and on these big wood panels, and I was going to do these things, and I was trying to write short stories, and I had all this huge creative energy that I just desperately wanted to like make work. I needed something to click. I needed some way to make a living and be with the creative aspects, and I needed, but nothing was really happening, you know. I was making a living as a loan officer, right? Before the bubble, so way more money I make now, but it wasn't working out. But I was kind of killing myself. So there was a time when I was about 28 that I realized that you know, I didn't want to be 30 years old, like trying to get my friends to come hear my crappy band at some crappy bar somewhere, and I realized I wasn't going to get into these posh galleries that I really was desperately trying to get into with my painting, which happened to be photorealism. So what I would do was I would take these huge series of photographs, and I'd contextualize these images, and I'd take these figures and I'd do a photorealistic painting on wood. And I had gone through this whole process, taken all these shots, and I had prepped the oak panel, and I realized, like, it was one of those moments. It was almost like I had like brought the paintbrush up to start painting, and it just, I was emotionally over it. I was done. And I realized at that moment that there was a clarity that happened, and it was at that moment that I realized that photography was what I was kind of all in it for. Like, why I had gone to college to be a painter was because I didn't want to be what my dad was. I didn't want to be what my grandfather was. I wanted to do something bigger, better. I wanted to be a fine artist. I wanted to be something snooty and amazing. I didn't want to be just a portrait guy, you know. And what was really funny was you know, you can kill yourself to be adequate at something that you're not meant to be good at. Like, if you don't have, you can sacrifice relationships, you can deviate from your path, you can ruin everything for this one thing, and to be adequate, to merely be adequate. Or you can really listen to yourself and listen to what's in you, and figure out what you are truly gifted at, and then suddenly everything works, and you put in a quarter of the effort for a million times the return. So I called my dad up and I said, I want to come work at your studio to figure out what's going on, and I did that for a little bit, and I moved on, and I do a very different kind of photography, but I've been a photographer now for 4 years. But basically, what I've learned is that sometimes it is a very long, complicated path to get back to where you started, and possibly where you should have been, but with a much better and more robust perspective than you would have ever had you gone straight into it. And so I embraced that path, and I wouldn't change a thing. Thanks for listening.